Hello and welcome to the Dread Expanse. I'm the Quack and I hope you're having a less quack day than myself. Today we are only going to be talking about a few pieces of information revealed in the 8.3 content reveal and the data mine information about 8.3. Because frankly, there is so much, and for me, these pieces of information are the glaring standouts. Specifically, we're going to be talking about long-term hints to the future of World of Warcraft and the possible world building that has been hinted at. To begin with, let's start with the Il'gynoth Whispers.
When their mistress beckons, 9 ravens take flight. Each seeks a prize to earn her favor.
So, I'll be honest, I never realised how long I had been looking for the number 9 in World of Warcraft until I read this whisper, and I guarantee you it's not for the reason you think. Because, okay, the ravens are probably the 9 Val'kyr that approach Sylvanas, and the mistress is probably a reference to the title Mistress of Death, and could possibly be referring to Helia or what Sylvanas may become. But frankly, that's the unimportant information. What's important is this part. Each seeks a prize to earn her favour. Now, it could be argued that this is a reference to the original 9 Keepers, but honestly I doubt that, and so this leaves us with one other possibility I know of, and it's a massive one that heralds huge lore reveals in future. The only other concept I know of in World of Warcraft that specifically relates to the number 9 are the Elven Solariums from the Burning Crusade, that to this day have assumedly depicted the 9 worlds, or the 9 realms of Azeroth, and in recent times we got reintroduced to this idea of 9 worlds, or possibly 9 realms, in the Karazhan library. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The reason this whisper is so important is not because of who, or even what at this point. It's the where. Where are the ravens going to seek their prize? Are they going to the other realms of Azeroth? Are we going to have to follow them, and are we going to have to fully explore and save the other realms of Azeroth? I have probably jumped the gun here. How do we know there are 9 realms in World of Warcraft? The short answer is we don't. It's just been a speculation that's been around for ages. The idea is the planet Azeroth exists in the physical universe, and is the equivalent to Midgard in Norse mythology, while the soul of Azeroth could be equated to the world tree Yggdrasil. So where we may live on one of the planets that relates to Azeroth, in reality there are another 9 that could exist in other realms that we just don't know of. The follow-up to this is the idea the Shadowlands and the Dream, the home of the Emerald Dream, are another 2 realms, while the unknown planet that we call the Shadowlands and the planet we call the Emerald Dream are versions of Azeroth inside those realms. And on a more fringe note, Draenor in this case could be equated to Jotunheim, as in the home of the giants. As I said prior though, there is no proof of this. The best evidence to support this idea is the fact the world trees not only act like Yggdrasil, but also share a similar naming scheme, as well as the fact Val'kyr culture, thanks to the Keepers and the Titans, heavily permeates World of Warcraft, and in turn, because Val'kyr culture is based off Norse culture and mythology, Norse mythology may also permeate throughout WoW's lore. Here's the thing though, I wouldn't have even thought of this possibility for weeks, if it wasn't for the very premise 8.3 was built upon, and quite literally how Ian describes what's going on.
Ny'alotha, the sleeping city, the dreaming city, as some have called it, is the domain of the Black Empire. It is this alternate world inhabited by the old gods and their minions. And it's not a distant location for us to travel to via a starship or a portal. It's in fact all around us, on the other side of this thin veil. And what N'Zoth is doing is tearing that veil down, bringing horrible nightmares and dark visions of a future in which the forces of the old god are ascendant into our world, and actually venture through these rifts into the world that N'Zoth's minions inhabit, into an alternate reality that reflects the manifestation of all of N'Zoth's goals. You'll be able to earn your way into the deepest recesses of N'Zoth's mind, and the reality that's seeking to manifest itself across Azeroth.
Now, for context, because there is a lot required, back in May, as in 5 months ago, I made a podcast with Sherview from Shinies and Lucydos about Leylines, and in a simpler, clumsier way, I basically hit the nail on the head. as in perfectly describe the lore mechanics of what's going on in 8.3. If you want to listen to that, I'll leave a link in the description. There should be something popping up in the top right corner now, and to get the full context of that part of the conversation, you want to listen from timestamp 3134 to 3503, and if you want to get the specific part of the conversation, listen from timestamp 3300 to 3430. The whole video is worth listening to, however I doubt most people have a spare hour and 46 minutes and can stand the poor audio on my part for that long. And to be clear, the only reason why I'm not sticking this audio in the video is because of the sound quality. It's not good. So, for a brief summary of what was said, Chevy and I were talking about Leylines and how they seem to not only be magic, as in all magic somehow combined into a single energy, including elemental magic, how they also seem to be energies of the Twisting Nether, and how they also seem to be the building blocks of the physical universe, realms, pocket dimensions, etc. And flatly, there is proof to every statement I just made. It would just take an hour plus to explain. Ny'alotha and N'Zoth fit into this because, similar to how the Emerald Dream seems to be Azeroth's planet within the Emerald Dream, which seems to be a pocket realm of the quote-unquote dream that matches the described scale of the Shadowlands, Ny'alotha, or more specifically N'Zoth's part of Ny'alotha, seems to be a pocket realm mimicking Azeroth that specifically shows his visions of the past, present and future of Azeroth within the greater realm of Ny'alotha. If I have lost you, don't worry, this will make sense. Basically, if a creature is big enough and powerful enough, like Azeroth or N'Zoth, its thoughts and dreams can create a pocket dimension with any number of possibilities, aka N'Zoth's Black Empire in 8.3. These pocket dimensions do not necessarily form within the physical universe, and so do not share the same rules as the physical universe. Instead, they may form in other realms like the Assumed Dream, the realm the Emerald Dream exists in, and Ny'alotha, the realm N'Zoth's visions of the Black Empire seem to occupy. These dreams are basically pocket dimensions within other realms created by powerful creatures from the physical universe. These dreams, naturally, for all intents and purposes, should remain closed off, never affecting the realms they are a part of, or the physical universe. Or at least that's the rule until Leylines, quote-unquote magic, opens, alters, or weakens the barriers between realms, or as is generally referred to, the Veil. Depending on how the Veil is altered, there can be numerous effects and possibilities. You can open the way to a different world, the apparent space between everything, the Twisting Nether, an alternate reality, a dreamed alternate reality, a possible future, the past, a different realm, of which there seems to be 9. This list goes on, and that's not mentioning you can end up combining these possible destinations. For example, you can go to the past of a different planet in an alternate reality, aka alternate Draenor. Or you can go to a dreamed reality in a different realm that seems to have little to no concept of time, aka the Emerald Dream. This is where you're going to really want to start paying attention, because where all of this creates an infinite amount of possibilities for world building, it also creates the possibility of what's happening in 8.3 and the visions of N'Zoth. Because if a creature is powerful enough, they can dream up their own vision of how a world from one realm, the physical universe, should look into another, Ny'alotha. Then, with their power, break the veil of that dream, change the physical universe and the realm that dream existed in to mimic the dreamed alternate reality, quite possibly, depending on the dream, altering the past and the future in the process, especially if that creature had dreamed of the future and the power present is great enough. N'Zoth wasn't joking when he said,
I have dreamed your destiny, mortal.
He has literally dreamed our destinies, and intends to pull them into fruition from another realm. At this point, I hope you're still following, and if not, the last explanation I can give is think about how we stopped the realm of Deepholm from crashing into Azeroth during the Cataclysm. If we didn't repair the World Pillar, Deepholm would have ended up materializing on Azeroth, changing the face of the planet and causing devastating destruction in the process. What N'Zoth is doing is basically an upscaled version of that, which may involve the possibility of changing the past and future as well. Now, if you have followed along to this point, then the importance of all this is probably screaming you in the face. But before I get to that, I need to explain why this tells us what the Old Gods were doing during the Black Empire, and why trying to narrow down their prisons at this point may be a worthless exercise. So in Chronicle Volume 1, we get a map that told us where the Old God territories were. We then eventually learned the Old Gods were trying to kill each other. Upon re-examining the map with that information in mind, you can basically line up the borders of the Old Gods with places of significance that likely had powerful Leylines or Leyline nexuses under them. So it's possible to deduce the Old Gods were fighting over Leylines. Nothing shocking yet. With the Leylines being potent sources of power, the initial assumption was they were just trying to get stronger. Visions of N'Zoth, however, takes that possibility and replaces it with a crazy and shockingly expansive one. The Old Gods weren't just fighting to get more powerful, they were fighting over the Leylines so they could bring their visions of Azeroth into the physical universe. Those territories were not normal territories, they were quite literally the visions of the Old Gods. N'Zoth's region was an area he was able to convert into his dream and his vision of the Black Empire. C'Thun's territory was his own version of the Black Empire. Yog's territory was his own version of the Black Empire, and Y'Shaarj's was his own version of the Black Empire. Each region represents a different Old God's realm of existence brought to life. Meaning for all those who think we're going to be done with Ny'alotha after one patch, just no. This is just the beginning, and whether it be the next expansion or the expansion after that, we are far from done with Ny'alotha. I mean, not only are the visions of N'Zoth just one vision of Azeroth from one Old God, the weakest I might add, we don't even know if killing him within this dream will actually kill him and instead send him back to Ny'alotha proper, which could also have a planetary version of Azeroth we haven't seen yet. And that's not mentioning we don't even know what will happen to these visions if N'Zoth dies. Will they disappear or will they remain? And if they don't, does this mean we're going to have to look them away? Or if they do, does this mean something similar might happen to the Emerald Dream if Azeroth dies or wakes up? The reason this makes trying to find the prisons redundant is because of where N'Zoth is pulling in his visions, by the way. N'Zoth originally was nowhere near Uldum or the Vale of Eternal Blossoms. One location was deep within C'Thun's territory, while the other was a battleground between Y'Shaarj and C'Thun. The implication is the only thing the Old Gods need to do to free themselves is find places with powerful Leyline energy anywhere on Azeroth and pull down the right veil to ensure their visions manifest. This also implies the 3 prisons on Azeroth we know of, one of which was destroyed during the Sundering and the other 2 we put out of commission, may have been tethers of some sort keeping the Old God's presence on Azeroth in place, while the Eternal Palace may have been the equivalent of the cell door control, which as we know was destroyed and opened the doors. And as Ogmont's journal finished with, "Fool, the circle awaken us all." All of the Old Gods might be free, not just N'Zoth. Bringing this back to the start and the 9 realms, assuming the physical realm, the Dream, the Shadowlands and Ny'alotha are 4 of the 9 realms, we still have 5 that are MIA, and that's not mentioning the possibility of the other Old Gods' visions being realms in and of themselves. There is even the possibility of N'Zoth having other visions in different realms, or the other Old Gods basing their visions in other realms. And here's the real thing, right? Of all the characters the Mistress could be, one of the most likely is Helia, who just happened to be one of the keepers that created the elemental plane. Of all the characters that could open up the World of Warcraft universe, she is definitely one of them. And when you read the Whisper within the context of this theory, the Raven's meaning and the prizes sought suddenly take a very dark turn. The Raven is seen differently in many cultures. However, one of the most predominant depictions of the Raven is a bringer of war and death, sometimes both. If there are 9 individual prizes the Ravens seek, who says those prizes aren't the 9 realms themselves? The implication here being the Ravens are Harbingers of Helia, or whoever the Mistress is, sent to claim the realms in her name. But this is just one possibility I wanted to get out there. With the number 9 finally appearing and everything that's going on in Visions of N'Zoth, it seemed like prudent speculation. I probably won't have any more content coming out until after BlizzCon, so until next time, thank you for watching.